Have you ever just felt, I don't know, like there's something a little bit off with you because you just can't pick one thing, one career, one passion, one single lane to stay in? Well, what if I told you that your scattered brain, as some people might call it, has actually been secretly preparing you for the future of work? Okay, let's really get into this. Yes, the question. You know the one. That dreaded little question you get at every party, every networking event. For most people, it's pretty simple. But for you, it might feel like a total trick question, right? It sends your brain into a bit of a short circuit because, well, you're a designer who also codes, but you're also studying neuroscience on the side, and you just picked up woodworking. How do you even begin to answer that? And then there's this old ghost. This is the phrase that has haunted people like us for decades. It's that little whisper in the back of your mind, maybe that subtle judgment you feel from a career advisor whose eyes just kind of glaze over when they look at your resume. It implies that you're just a dabbler, that you're unfocused, a master of absolutely nothing.
So let's just call it what it is. It's the too many interests problem. It's that constant pressure from the outside world to just pick a path, and that nagging feeling on the inside that maybe you're a little bit broken because you just can't.
And look, to be fair, this pressure didn't come from nowhere. For the better part of 100 years, the world absolutely praised the specialist. Success looked kind of like an oil derrick, just drilling straight down a mile deep into one very specific area of knowledge. That was the path. That was how you got security and respect. But here's the thing. Here's the plot twist they didn't really tell you about. The world completely changed the rules of the game. The very foundation that made being a specialist the winning strategy, well, it's cracked, and a whole new model for success is starting to emerge. Okay, so this slide breaks down that shift perfectly using a really brilliant analogy. For the longest time, work was what you'd call a kind environment. Think of it like being a golfer. The rules are crystal clear, the course is set, and doing the same thing over and over again, repetition, is how you get to mastery. You get instant feedback on every single swing, but today, we are in a wicked environment. This is like being a firefighter. Every single fire is different, the rules are constantly changing, and you often have no idea if you made the right call until much, much later. So here's the crucial point. In this new, wicked world, being the world's best typewriter repairman is, sure, technically impressive, but it's pretty much economically irrelevant. That kind of extreme specialization, which used to be a huge strength, can now become a massive blind spot. It can leave you totally unable to adapt when the whole landscape changes without any warning. So if the specialist is in trouble, who thrives? Well, let's meet the new hero of this story. Let's talk about a new identity for all of us with too many interests, the M-shaped professional. So first, let's just quickly understand the old model. This is the I-shaped person. See? Looks like the letter I. That's our specialist, the deep expert. They have one single, very strong pillar of knowledge. And that's super stable in a predictable world. Then, there's the trap that so many of us fall into when we try to escape being an I. We become the dash-shaped person. You know a little bit about a lot of things. And honestly, this creates a ton of anxiety because you don't really have a foundation. You don't have solid ground to stand on when things get tough. And this is where we want to be, the M-shaped person. Now, this isn't about knowing a little about everything. No, this is about building multiple pillars of deep knowledge, maybe 2, maybe 3 areas where you really go deep, and then connecting them with that broad curiosity that you already have. You're not a dabbler, you're a synthesizer. So let's put a clear definition on it. You're someone who combines deep skills. So think about a software engineer who also decides to go deep on user psychology. They're not just a coder anymore, are they? They become the person who can build technology that people actually love to use because they understand both sides of the coin. That intersection, that is where all the magic happens. And listen, this isn't just some nice-sounding theory. This is based on hard data. According to the World Economic Forum, a staggering 39% of workers' core skills will need to change by 2030. Not just evolve a little bit, completely change. The future belongs to people who can pivot and synthesize across different domains. Okay, so right about now you might be thinking, great, but how do I actually build an M? That sounds exhausting. Well, the secret is not to do everything at once. The secret is a strategy called serial mastery. It's a really focused 4-step process. First, you just pick one pillar to build.
Then step 2, you commit to it for what we'll call a season, say 6 to 18 months. Now, your goal isn't to become the world's #1 expert. The goal is to master the core 80%, just enough to be fluent. And then, and this is the most important part, you strategically quit. And this isn't giving up, it's graduating to your next pillar.
But okay, which one do you pick first? I know, this can be totally paralyzing. So the trick is to just lower the stakes. You are not choosing for the rest of your life, you're just choosing for this season. You can go one of two ways. Either pick the practical pillar, the one that creates stability, a good enough job that pays the bills. Or you can just follow your curiosity. Pick the one that has the most energy around it for you right now, just pick one, and begin. So as you start building your M shape, you start to develop some incredible new tools. They're like cognitive superpowers, really. Things that specialists just don't have access to. Your main superpower is something called far transfer. Okay, so a specialist uses near transfer, applying a skill to a very similar problem. But you develop this amazing ability to see the fundamental pattern in one domain and apply it to a completely different one. This, right here, is the source code of true innovation. For example, imagine someone who understands the branching structure of tree roots. One day, they might suddenly see a completely revolutionary new way to organize a complex company database. They're borrowing a pattern from biology and applying it to information science. Who thinks of that? Or think about a musician who understands harmonic structure. They might look at a bunch of messy software code and see a more elegant, more, well, harmonious way to organize it. They're seeing the music in the code, not just the lines. These are the kinds of connections that lead to real breakthroughs. So your M-shaped toolkit has 3 key things. First, you get the ability to outmaneuver AI. AI is great at going deep, but it's terrible at the kind of creative, far transfer thinking that bridges disciplines. Second, you learn to leverage a low-drain job, a stable role that funds your life, but crucially leaves you with the mental energy to explore and build your other pillars. And third, you absolutely need a capture system. Your brain is an idea factory, so use a tool like Notion or Obsidian to save all those little sparks of inspiration. You've got to capture the dots so you can connect them later. So I want you to just let this one sink in. If you have spent your entire life feeling scattered, maybe it was never a weakness. Maybe you were never meant to be a specialist. Maybe your whole life has actually been training you for this exact moment, to be the person who can stand at the intersections of different worlds and see how it all connects. You know, the world that told you to pick just one thing, it was wrong, and it's finally catching up to you. Your ability to learn, to adapt, to synthesize, that's no longer a bug. It is the most valuable feature you have. So the only question now is, what unique connections will you make?